Welcome back to Bernie for Your Thoughts, the official podcast for Baruch Undergraduate Admissions. I'm your host, Michelle, and we are joined today by our guests, Gary Smalls and Djamina. So if you could kindly introduce yourselves before we get into the episode.
So my name is Gary Smalls. I am the program coordinator here at the Field Center. I'm also an alumni and a business owner of Dream Team 718 Wellness and Dream Team 718 Consulting.
And my name is Djamina, and I'm a student here at Baruch, majoring in cybersecurity with a minor in communications. I'm also the executive council of the College Entrepreneurs Organization and a co-founder of the Fair, the business that we started within the club.
Great. Thank you both so much for joining us. So the people that are watching are probably wondering, where are we? So could one of you please tell us about the location that we're in, the Lawerence N Field Center for Entrepreneurship. Where are we today?
Yeah, I'll kick it off and then Djamina will take it away. This wonderful place called the Field Center is located here in the vertical campus. It's we call it it's like Narnia, right? When you come to, it's like the gym that people are still learning and discovering. Our goal is to help students, faculty, staff, and community members to be able to take advantage of all the resources to help them on an entrepreneurial journey.
Honestly, I would say this is my second home. This is literally where I come to right after my classes, because I know this is where I can network with other students, just get to know them, and also just do my homework. If I have any questions for anyone in the Field Center, I know I can have them as a support system.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So, Gary, you are a Baruch alum. You graduated, you went out, you got some real-world experience, and now you're back. So could you please tell us about your path to Baruch and your career path, anything that you want to share?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things, this wasn't my first choice for college. This wasn't my first choice. I actually thought I was going to Berkeley in the city, because I wanted to do fashion management, which is interesting because we have a fashion company there. But I wanted to do fashion management, and it was because of my science teacher. When I was telling him about the schools I was applying to, he was like, have you ever considered Baruch as an option since you want to be a business owner? And I was like, I don't even know what Baruch is. I don't know what a Baruch is at all. So he recommended it. I put it on my application, and the rest is history. And then from there, I went on, did my 4 years. My major was small business, entrepreneurship, right? So the journey is amazing to be able to come back and to be able to work in that capacity years later after, studying and minoring in philosophy as well. So it's been a pretty cool journey.
Yeah, so I know that you mentioned full circle moment because you wanted to go to school initially for fashion, and now here we are with one of the CEOs for one of the fashion companies or businesses that we have at Baruch. So I guess to go more into detail, what made you want to come back to Baruch? Why are you here at the Field Center? And I guess what is your role now that you were a student, now you're an alum, and now you're a part of the faculty and staff here at Baruch?
Interesting enough, my journey here, if you'd have told me 2 years ago that I'll be working at the school I graduated from, I'd be like, nah, no way. So it actually started off interesting. It started off just a conversation I had with Marlene because I wanted to be a mentor. So Baruch is one of the best things that ever happened to me. So I'm the first person, one of the first people in my family to graduate from college. So this place represents trial and error and struggle. So anytime I looked at my career, I would always look back to this moment in time because this place really developed me and developed my character. So I wanted to be a mentor, right? And I wanted to provide some of that support that I had, but we could see more of it. And I want Baruch and CUNY students at large to feel supported the way students in private schools get that support, right? That unwavering support. And I wanted to provide that. So it started off wanting to be a mentor, and then had a conversation with Marlene, who's always working on so many programs. There's 20 programs here.
Right.
So she said, I think it might be something here for you to do. And I was like, okay. So it started off as a facilitator for pitch prep. Then I went from part-time and then now full-time. So it started off as something sincerely just wanting to give back to the students at large. And now I get to do that on a full-time basis.
I love that. And I relate a lot to that too because I'm also a Baruch alum. I also went out, was in service for a little bit and then decided to come back because I wanted to feel like a mentor. So I also kind of fell into the role that I'm in now, hence why we have the podcast. So it's crazy how you start off doing something and then it ends up going into something that's on a larger scale, and then obviously the students benefit the most from it. So talking about the students, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself, maybe your background, what made you want to come to Baruch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was born and raised in Burkina Faso, which is like a small country in West Africa, until I moved here at the age of 12. And as a non-English speaker, I literally had to learn the language from scratch, right? Because English is not the language we speak back home, right? And which was hard, but it took me about 6 months to actually, have a simple conversation with people, right? And I think as a kid, like, you quickly pick up on languages easier than, because I think right now I wouldn't be able to do that. So so that's how I started. And I know, like, during my school years, I didn't have an idea of like what career I wanted to specifically pursue, right? And I remember during career days, like, I have my classmates talking about, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be this, right? Which is cool. They, at such a young age, they already knew what they wanted to do, but it wasn't my case. It wasn't the same in my case. So I think for me, I had to come out of my shell a little bit and like try out new things and figure out where, what are my interests? Where's my passion lies, right? So ultimately, I, found out that business was one of the things that I was interested in. That was one of my passions. So Baruch, perfect place, one of the top business schools. So this is what brought me here.
Right, I love that. Yeah, so now that you're a student here at Baruch, like, you made it, here we are now. How do you think that the Field Center and being a part of a community like this, how do you think that's enhanced your college experience?
Oh my God, where do I start? I mean, like, my experience at the Field Center has been incredible. Like, as a rising junior now, like, I would have never thought that, I would be able to like participate in all those amazing opportunities that the Field Center has to offer. Like, the Field Center has like various programs, networking opportunities, tons of workshops, first of all, and but other support services that you can take advantage of. And this is what I did. And
You got it.
And I frequently meet new people at the center, right? With my involvement with the club itself, the clothing brand as well, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. Let's talk a little bit more about the clothing brand, because for anybody who follows us on social media and is probably tuning into this episode, you guys had a marketplace back in the fall, which we attended, myself and the social media team, and it was great. It was the first time I had ever seen something like that. And you guys did it again recently for Women's History Month, where you showcased all of the female vendors and female business owners at the college. So let's talk about your brand, because that was one of the first brands when I was finding out a little bit about the Field Center. That was one of the first things that came up. You guys, when you first launched, you had kind of like a little tabling session out on the plaza, and we're selling your merch. So let's talk about that. I guess just give us what you want to share. How did you, I guess, come up with the idea of having a fashion business while you're still a student? How did that come about?
Yes, so the fair was actually a business that we started within the Entrepreneurship Club. It wasn't my idea, but more like a collaborative idea that we came up with, because one thing we do at the CEO Club, we start new businesses every year, right? We want to show our members that there's various businesses that you can start, not just a physical product, but also like an application if you want, right? So the fair was actually one of the businesses we started last year, like you mentioned, during our lunch. And our purpose was to provide business casual clothing. As you can see, I can wear it like literally every day.
You got the merch on.
Of course. Yeah, so that it's something you can wear everywhere, whether it's to work or to school, right? And or to your virtual meetings, right? It was the purpose of it was to create business casual clothing for business students like ourselves, and also professionals, right? Because we noticed that during COVID, people had to go on Zoom to attend their meetings, and they would have to like where like maybe like the top will be
Yeah.
like the suits and ties, maybe at the bottom they'll wear like the PJs
Yeah.
and everything. So that was still uncomfortable, right? But you want to be able to wear something that still shows that you're in business, but you're still comfortable. So
Right.
that was really the point of the clothing brand.
I love that, especially as, I graduated not that long ago, and
Yeah.
so I know what it's like to be a student and want to look polished and professional, and so I think the whole vision behind the business is great. You want to come off a certain way, you want to look polished and professional, but you're a college student, right?
Definitely.
So getting the Ralph Lauren suits like that is probably not feasible for everybody. So what does the name mean? Because when we were doing our research about it, I was like, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to mispronounce it. So I guess, what is its literal translation? Is it in a different language? And how did you come up with the name for it?
Yes, so the fair means people in business in French. And I know when you look it up, initially it tells you that that's, it means man in business. But literally the name actually, and the actual translation is human beings, right? Like, we're all human. The H in the fair stands for human beings. And, it's inclusive to everyone, right? And we are people in business. So this was perfect for the clothing brand that we, wanted to create.
I love that. So in what ways do you think the Field Center has helped grow your business? Like I mentioned before, I saw you guys tabling out on the plaza when the company first launched, and then you guys were here again in the marketplace back in the fall, and back this last month in March for Women's History Month. So aside from physically selling your merchandise, how else has the Field Center helped you grow?
Yeah, so as student entrepreneurs, we definitely have an advantage, taking advantage of like all those free resources that the Field Center has to offer. And one of them is like I mentioned before, the networking opportunities, right? Like, you get to meet other students, like-minded students that are interested in business. Maybe they want to create their own business and they want to have that like experience in the fair, right? Whether you're majoring in marketing, communications, finance, we have departments for it, for the students to actually have that experience with us, right? Because this was a student-led clothing brand, right? And so also like other services like the Small Business Development Center that the Field Center has that we actually have used. We actually have a meeting with them this week about like legal matters. Like, we want to talk to them about like the legal aspects of the business, and just ask them questions. And I know that they are definitely an excellent resource when it comes to like small businesses like ourselves. And and also like Gary and Marlene.
Yes,
I
Gary.
always go to Gary when I have like a question, because I know that he would definitely help me with it. And I'm extremely grateful for like everybody in the center, because I know that I can count on them for things, right? So, and these are people that you don't find anywhere, like, especially in the real world. Like, you won't find actual genuine people that really want to help you. So I'm extremely grateful for them.
Gary, how do you feel about
man.
that?
Yeah.
I mean, because I relate so much to you, because I also feel like I'm in a mentor position, right? And so how do you feel, I guess, overseeing this business along with many others, helping the team run the Field Center? How has that new role, I guess, of being a mentor, what is that like?
It's a joy.
Yeah?
It's joy, because I walk the same stairs that I walked as an undergrad. I'm on the same escalator. I remember being a Baruch College student, right? I just trying to figure this thing out, and there was no roadmap for me, right? So there was no one I had who can give me guidance, right? So now, every time a student comes into the Field Center, right, I have an opportunity to be guidance, and not like I'm not an admissions counselor, right? But I don't work in admission, but I feel the responsibility to be supportive to students. And as individuals that work on a college campus, we should never be bothered by students, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't have, our roles are irrelevant if there's no students to pour into. So it brings me joy. And I've worked, over the last 15 years, right, outside of higher ed. And I've been in environments where you dread going to work.
Right.
And this is not that. Like, to see what they're doing with their time
It's great.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Things that I was definitely not doing as an undergrad student.
Right.
So it actually makes me want to continue to dream and pursue. Like during the marketplace, the first one, after I saw some tables from the students, I had to go to like Party City and like step my table up because I was like, my table was looking a little janky, and I was like, you know what? They came to go. They came to bring it. So I wanted to make sure. So it's an inspiration and it's joy.
So now that we're talking about students, so this podcast is aimed for prospective students. So students that are thinking about coming to Baruch for like the next 4 or 5 years of their life. And, you know, we do our best as admissions to answer any questions that they may have and talk a little bit more about the college. But, you know, there's just not enough time in our admissions presentations and our tours, open house, to talk about every single program and service that we offer. So, Gary, could you tell us a bit about some of the additional programs and services that are offered at the Field Center? Is there any that are your favorite? Anything that you feel a prospective student should keep in mind if they are like our lovely student guests and want to pursue entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So the Field Center has 20 programs, 20 programs and counting, right? So that doesn't take into account to what's bubbling in my head or in Marlene's head or with the students, right? So the students will come with new program ideas and they get an opportunity to see those things through. I think here at the Field Center, there's so many points of entry for a student. So it may not be Maker Hub, right? It may not be SBDC. It might be CEO. That might be your entry point to the Field Center where you get a chance to network and connect with other students. You know, for some other students, their entry point was pitch prep, which is a program that we run in the fall to help students prepare for pitch competitions. So there's so many points of entry. I think the first thing you got to do when you watch this back, you know, right, as you think, watch this back, come to the Field Center on your first day of school, right? On your first day of school, come to the Field Center. I'm pretty sure if it's an active day of school, you're going to see students like Djamina, Bogdan, so many different students who are regulars here, like to the point where they're fixtures in the Field Center, right? And that's a good thing. And there's so many points of entry, and you don't have to be a entrepreneurship major to take advantage of it. Djamina mentioned we have students from all different majors who participate. So there's so many ways to enter. I think because there's so many programs here, I think the first thing is kind of like get an overview of what's here, and then you'll find where you fit or where you want to start. You know, we have students go from pitch prep to now they become interns. You know, interns that become actual staff, right? So it's one of those days, and you know, I think about guys like Alejandro, who you guys probably see in the lobby every Wednesday. He came in as a freshman. He just came in for information, and he left he left with a job because the opportunities were here, and he identified and he went for it. So we're always looking for ways to engage students. Step one, come by, and come by because there's so many ways to engage.
So this is great. I'm learning so much about the Field Center right now. It makes me want to come back and like be a student and learn so much. And I think, Djamina, you're a great example of what a Baruch student really is. Someone who's driven, someone who doesn't just come to class and go home, someone who is looking for ways to maximize their time and their potential while still in undergrad. So for any prospective students, you know, just to wrap up, either freshman or transfer, what advice would you want to share with them? And Gary, you can chime into it as well.
Yeah, like I think my number one, I would say, is like take advantage of those opportunities that are given to you, right? Because, and I know like it can be difficult because we may have like fears, whether it's, I don't know, public speaking, but whatever fear you have, just know that the things, I heard this quote before. It goes like, you know, the things that you think that you're afraid of are the things that are going to change your life. And I live by this like every day, because think about this. If I wasn't able to like get out of my comfort zone and like try out these new things, like I probably would be going home after school too, you know? So it's really important to get out of your comfort zone and try out these new things. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's solid. I think looking back, right, being so many years removed from undergrad, is these 4 years seem like they're like pressured, right? And the Baruch student is a very unique student, a very driven student, right? And I still feel that when I walk on campus, Baruch students are driven students, you know, internships and 6 classes, and running a business. I'm like, how do you guys do it? I would say, in addition to being ambitious, be sure to take care of yourself. So use use the gym, use the office of wellness. Like, take care of yourself on this journey, because there's so much more of you that's needed after these 4 years that I think sometimes we lose ourselves in those 4 years. So just being mindful that in the ambition and the vigor to want to succeed, to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and speaking of like taking care of yourself, like Gary has started like this program in the Phil Center, which is called Wellness Wednesday, which I think is a great opportunity for like students like us to take advantage of when it comes to like taking care of ourselves. Because if you can't take care of yourselves, like how would you be able to do all these things that you want to do, right? So definitely Wellness Wednesday, like I think like he mentioned in step 1, come back to the center, right? But then step 2, also, you know, be open to like trying out these new opportunities. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. This was a great conversation. We are coming back from a hiatus, and so when we were thinking about what episodes we wanted to do, we were like, let's do the Field Center, because we had just come back from the marketplace back during Women's History Month, and it was just so vibrant, and seeing so many students like yourselves, you know, put yourselves out there, because it's not easy, right? A lot of the things you want to keep to yourself, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, like I don't have, you know, whatever. So to see so many of you, and just the female vendors, right? Like there's so many more other vendors that weren't there this past month. We were like, we have to do the Field Center, because it's one of those hidden gems, because like it's like Narnia, right? Where people are like, we have a Field Center, like I could run my own business while I'm in college, and yes, you can. So thank you both so much for your time. This was a great conversation, and yeah, we are done.
Can I mention one more thing?
Oh, yes.
When it comes to like, you know, the female vendors and everything, we, you know, as on the fair, we are, you know, organizing a fashion show coming up May 11th here at the Phil Center, and we are promoting like, you know, vendors. There will be vendors, because we want to be able to like promote these small businesses, right? Yes, we are a small business, but we want to also like promote other businesses, you know, like the vendors, whether you're like a beverage or food vendor. So definitely come by. We will have models here, like our spring collection coming up, so definitely come by.
Love that. You had to give a shout out. You're like, let's shout her out. Let's shout out.
She does this for real. Like, she does this for real.
For real. Okay. That's great. Yeah, and you know, we cover all this stuff on our social media pages anyway. So for any student that is watching it and is like, oh, I didn't get to see it, it'll be all over our social media, so that's great. And I love that. I love that you acknowledge that you're also a small business, but you're amplifying the other small businesses. It's kind of like that quote, lift while you climb, which was also the quote for Women's History Month. I totally just remember that. So thank you so much.
No problem.
This is awesome.
Oh, this was great.
This is awesome.
All right.